In this studio tour, KDSL, the art studio from Paris, will share with you the incredible story of a small family structure business that grew into a thriving company of 16 people in just 6 years. Join us as we take a closer look at the transition and the key factors that lead to their success.
Hi guys, and welcome to KDSL office. I founded KDSL in 2016 with a friend from architecture school. We loved architecture, but what we were really passionate about above all was 3D. So after 2 years working as architect, we decided to stop. We taught 3ds Max in V-Ray, and well, this is how it began. We launched our KDSL in 2016, and clients start trusting us because we offer some nice and sensitive lighting, and we were super flexible and fast. So when they asked for comments or feedback, until the very deadline, we were able to make them happen. In 2020, we were a team of 5 people, and we've been hit by COVID, of course. After the first lockdown, my partner decided to leave the company, so we split up.
After the pandemic, we thought that we were gonna have a smooth linear growth like we used to have in the months before the COVID, except that it was much harder because we had an exponential growth. We were basically left with 3 options. Option 1, basically keeping the same business model without changes on our structure whatsoever. Option 2 was going vertically, like creating one of these classic pyramidal structures. But actually, the philosophy of KDSL was more horizontal. So we say to ourselves, why don't we try a horizontal structure, which is option 3, growing horizontally. And of course now, nowadays it's very easy to say, like it was the right thing to do, but at the moment it wasn't that obvious. You may end up losing clients or disappointing clients, losing control. You have like a lot of things to think about because everyone's doing everything at the same time. You have to assign roles. It's not that simple. So at the time we were very scared. Actually, it's the way it was from the beginning, and we didn't change that. And that's amazing because we are many artists working at the same time, and we have the feeling it works.
I think we did it. Like we managed to switch that step to get bigger. We face this challenge as a team, as one team actually. Like we stick together. So this word sounds a bit drama, like cinematic, but this is what actually happened. We are one team with the same, we share the same aim, and well, this is how we switch from KDSL V1 basically to KDSL 2.0 after.
I have to admit that these are not just empty words. During our visit, I really could feel the friendly sort of family atmosphere. All of them seem to be really close to each other and super kind.
If you want to know a little bit more of how it works, it's basically everyone does everything, everyone can lead a project, everyone can have communication with the client. You have absolute freedom. Of course, you can specialize, but you will still be in all the steps of a project. You will never be locked in one thing. For big projects or very complex or critical animations, we might have a project leader. But again, this is a floating role that has nothing to do with experience.
Sounds great, but let's find out what the teammates have to say about working here.
For my part, I quickly noticed that the way things are done here is very different from other agencies I have worked with before. Here, people change role frequently and everything is always moving. For example, within only 2 weeks of starting here, I was given my own project to manage. This was challenging and a little stressful, but this was also a great opportunity to show what I can do and to learn valuable lessons. Arnaud and the team showed they trusted my work. I was given bigger projects to manage and eventually a team to lead.
For me, my passion for 3D art and visualization started during my early years doing architecture, which led me on a self-taught journey to learn the craft. When I joined KDSL 5 months ago, it was a challenge for me because I never used 3ds Max and Corona. I was more into real-time rendering like D5 and Lumion. Another challenge was to be in direct communication with clients and to be in charge for their project. However, thanks to this challenging environment and the senior members of the team who were always ready to share their knowledge and advices, I was able to stay motivated, to be more responsible, and especially to learn much faster. And within a few weeks, I was able and I was in charge for my own projects.
One thing I love about KDSL is their commitment to gender parity. I personally like working with the women in my team because it brings diverse perspectives and ideas to the table, which contributes to a creative environment.
For me, what I found exceptional about KDSL is that we have a cohesive team that enjoys working and having fun together. Usually, during our lunch break, I will hit the gym with Valentine, Nathaniel, and the rest of the team. We are playing FIFA. For sure, I will beat Arnaud and Luis.
I have to say that he's a liar because I won last week.
But yeah, I think to have such positive and collaborative environment, it's very important to build strong relationships with our colleagues and to enjoy work.
The main goal of it is that we don't think like an artist, like the conception of an artist is like you don't want to be locked in only one task, one repetitive task. Well, unfortunately, not so many firms work that way, but that's the way we think it works best. People come working to this industry because it's beautiful craft. I mean, people can be creative, can express themselves. You can do like amazing things that you can have a lot of fun. We think that that freedom of move, that dynamism is what makes your team more efficient at the end of the day, more creative.
I'm really curious about how did you manage to build such a great team given the circumstances?
We tried to find a senior artist first with experience, but we soon realized it was very hard to get this kind of guy. So I took a chance to hire young artists or even people with zero experience. So basically could be architects who want to try a new job or even people who never opened mics before. We think how to train them. For some guys it took like several weeks, for others it took several months. Now they are very efficient. They can work, of course, in a team with everyone, but they are able to manage a single project just themselves.
How did you train them?
Since we are not a school but a company, we decide to train them on a real project instead of exercise. So with real clients, real deadlines, and I think this kind of approach boosts their learning and they feel much more involved and committed in the process. Sharing knowledge and experience is crucial and it's a very good way to learn and to transmit the knowledge. This year we start organizing a workshop where we invite some speakers who have jobs related to ours, architectural photographers, videographers, matte painter, whatever. We're looking for an AI developer by now, so if someone wants to send me an email. So yeah, the idea is to discuss about that, these common topics, and to enrich ourselves through these exchanges.
Let's discover the secret of this effective workflow and the software that makes it possible to create beautiful projects.
So as every studio, we have our own unique workflow. Crafting the workflow is something very challenging, but it's also very exciting because you need to work closely with your colleague, share ideas, and find solutions that meet everyone's needs. 3ds Max Studio is our main tool to produce image. It's very powerful, reliable. I think that the last version are very good, very fast. When you do computer graphics for the first time you want to learn 3D, I think 3ds Max Studio is the industry standard software. So you can find a lot of tutorials on the internet, and it's not easy to learn, of course, but with the help of this tutorial and all the community that share their knowledge on the internet, you can rapidly learn this software. So we use a lot of plugins. One of the advantages of 3ds Max Studio is that they are all compatible with this software. Without these plugins, we couldn't make those kind of images. Here at KDSL, we manage and share all our assets in one common place. We use Project Manager. Everybody can contribute to the library. So we have a routine. At the end of each project, we gather all the assets that we create for that project and we put them to the database. Contribute to your database regularly and you will see the benefits for you and for your team. here at KDSL, we did the transition from After Effects to DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve is an all-in-one software, you know it. You can compose, you can edit, it's very powerful, it's flexible, and it's nodal. And here we have our custom nodal, and our workflow became incredibly faster than before. Everyone who learned this software here has the same thought. They said, why we didn't use this software before?
And what do you do to make your work faster?
If you have coding skills, like scripting, build your own tool. And if you don't, like me, ask for a friend. So we have a friend here, we have a colleague here, Paul, who scripts for us.
I began to script at KDSL one day when Guillaume had a specific need for one of his projects. He needed to create, at what time, a lot of RGB masks for his renderers. It's really boring to create by hand RGB mask with render elements. I decided to investigate how I can make tools that makes those masks easier. That's how came to life KDSL Manage Script. So if you want, I can show you how it works.
Yep.
It's very easy to understand. Here we have a grid of 1990 numbers corresponding of ID, object ID. So if we click in the scene on objects, we can assign them easily an ID. By creating a box, then I can choose one of the number and set ID. Then after that, when I finish to create all of the ID, I can click on the button render elements, and then all of render elements I created. Then in render settings, we have here mask with each channels for one object ID. So when we are 100 masks for a big project, it is a lot of time saving to do this by scripts. The second script is render script. So here we have a camera listener where we can select our camera, and automatically the viewport change the camera, the ratio, and the frame to render. And for animation, we can calculate automatically the USD cache. Like that, if we have 10 cameras in one file, we can render 10 cameras at one time. After that, we select the camera we want to render, and we just have to click here. Then we have a render check if there is mistakes. So here is our script.
They were kind enough to provide the simplified version of the script for you guys. I tried to look for the script for ages and I couldn't find this. You can download it from our website, link in the corner and in the description below the video.
As a team, the cohesion is very important and the good understanding and relationship in between us. We like to having times outside of work. Last year we've been skiing for a week all together. It was very nice. We try to organize several a year some events like karting races, laser game, stuff like this. And the interesting part is that this kind of thing bring out our personalities and strengths that we might not have seen in the work. And this is cool. We try to invite all our friends and clients and gather for a big party, like 400 people, and the party goes on until dawn with a lot of fun. It's pretty fantastic.
There's more to this than just having a good time. The artists also face challenges sometimes.
So Hata was in many ways a landmark, if you will, or a turning point in the history of KDSL, because it was literally an extraordinary project in an extraordinary site. The area is located roughly 90 minutes drive from downtown Dubai. There's this blue, beautiful lake in which people go kayaking, and there's the mountain around, and then people go mountain biking or hiking. So the client wanted to expand the tourist area, so they decided to create a dam and a second artificial lake up in the mountain. And then they found that the highest peak of the Emirates was not that far in their terms. It was not that far, it was super far. But they wanted to connect the whole thing with a cable car. So you have like this existing area in the base, a second artificial lake up in the mountain with a hotel that was integrated into the mountain. And then the third stage was this viewpoint, 7 stars hotel, and all of it was linked by a cable car. You can imagine the high expectations of the architects. Group C's called us. These are not just random architects. I mean, these are one of the most important architecture firms in France. They were also nervous because it was a critical project for them as well. I mean, they do enormous things, but this was very, very important. This is by far the hardest project, the most complex and stressful project that I've worked on. The workload was insane. Like, we worked tons of extra hours. They request for something like around 30 shots to be created in just a few weeks. And they added this 3-minute animation that was requested from one day to the other, like to be completed in 1 week or so. So it was very, very intense. Architects were making changes to the project at the same time. We were really working in parallel. The borderline of both countries crossed the summit. So they want half of the hotel to be placed in Oman. And of course, for obvious political matters, it didn't work. And so the architect calls us 2 minutes after the meeting and he says like, okay, no, so the whole thing is gonna change. So get ready. And we were ready because we thought that the project was likely to change. So we made an effort to parametric or procedural modeling the whole thing. But it's much faster than if you model it by hand. Parametric modeling and procedural modeling, it works so well, like Railclone, for example, that if you know that the project is gonna change or it's likely to be adjusted by the clients several times, don't hesitate to parametric model it. Don't model by hand. It's not a good idea when things are going to change. At some point, the client provided mega scan of the whole area that they did through photogrammetry. I don't know how many kilometers long. It was very useful, but for the close-up shots that we had to take, the textures weren't high resolution enough. We went like, okay, just let's remodel the mesh and just apply a nice shader, And we had this meeting with the client that was super stressful because I remember it was on a Friday afternoon, weekend's coming, and the guy's like, yeah, except like the colors are off. This sort of crater is not supposed to be here, it's supposed to be like at the right. And and this spot is not supposed to be here, but there's no spot here, it should be more to the left. So you want to, this is like, you are describing the actual thing, the actual mountain. And they will be, of course, these people have been living there for, I don't know how many 100 generations. They know their mountains as we know the Eiffel Tower or Champs-Élysées. We are not fooling them with a, cheap rock texture. You really need to recreate the mountain. We didn't have time to take drone shots. I remember that meeting and I was saying to myself, like, we are not gonna make it. And finally we did it. We literally modeled and textured the mountain so accurately that they couldn't tell the 3D from the real thing, and that consumed a lot of time. And we weren't expecting it. We weren't prepared for that, but well, of course, we have to work hundreds of hours. And finally we did it, but it was one of the hardest things of the project. So then you realize for the first time how complex one of these critical projects might get, and you have to be prepared for that. There was a second stage because they won the competition. We had like 2 weeks or so we had time to go to Dubai and getting drone shots. Again, it was super hard, super challenging, more than we expected. But we had like 3 drones and we did a good job. The final result was much better, and we could focus on the architecture and not the natural environment that we had to recreate for the first stage.
What hardware do you use to be able to create such complex projects?
You need to invest in hardware and software or in high-quality assets. With the growing demand for film, animation, you need to invest in network. You need to invest in powerful computer. But I know that hardware doesn't make good film, good images. People do. but people do with the help of right software.
We used to buy expensive Big Xeon at the very beginning, but when AMD released the Threadripper CPU, we switched to them. It's as efficient and it's much cheaper. Basically, it's workstation and with 128 gigabit of RAM. It's nothing extraordinary. We have drone. Some of us are authorized drone pilots, so we can operate basically everywhere in France, in city, in crowd area. It's okay.
On top of that, Arnaud is a private pilot. Can you believe it? Thanks to this extraordinary skill, he can, for example, travel around France and take photos for a couple of different projects that the team is working on at the same time.
Since we have more and more requests for 3D animation, we decided last November to buy a render farm. It was a huge investment because we had to change the power supply, we have to install a special AC for it, but it's worth it because this is something very valuable for the client, because in this kind of production, heavy animation, usually you have a V0, maybe a V1, and that's it. With this one, with this investment, we are able to offer several versions of the animation, so it's a very powerful tool.
Can you share some tips for artists?
You should be patient, first of all. Sometimes it takes time to start, but it always gets so much easier. There is always tools to discover which can make the workflow super easy. I think one of the most important parts in our work is that you're choosing your reference. So you should choose a reference that comes from reality. It's so nice to go outside, look at the lights, how it works, interact with objects, with the textures, the materials, so that you can create your own style. Don't stay all the time in front of your computer. You should go outside, look around, take photos, take a camera with you. By controlling your tools, you can be able to control your image and your imagination.
When I was hesitant about changing my workflow from SketchUp, Blender and other softwares to 3ds Max and Corona, I learned that as 3D artist, you shouldn't let the software be an obstacle for you. Instead, see it as a tool that you will use it to produce the desired result. And by keeping this mindset, you will be able to focus on your artistic abilities and create stunning visuals that captivate and inspire.
What about artists who want to build their own businesses?
You have to believe in your instinct, you have to trust yourself and your ideas. And more of all, of course, you have to trust your team. I'm not KDSL, my team is. Without them, I'm alone and I won't do anything. The individual matters more than the computers or the hardware. You need to offer them some good condition and means to realize images. You don't have to control everything. You just have to guide them, to advise them, of course, but they have to get some freedom to express what they have and to transmit it to the image and to the project. I think that's the key.
We need to agree that this was an amazing visit, and I'm sure you learned so much from this incredible, inspiring story. It was a pleasure to get to know these fantastic, super kind people, and I hope you guys show them as much love as they deserve in the comments section. Stay tuned for the next videos.